Action. What's up? What's up? I think we're live. Yes, we are live. What's up? John Melton coming to you live with MyLifestyleAcademy.com, where we help online entrepreneurs and network marketers take their businesses from average to savage, leveraging social media. And we have another phenomenal episode today. In fact, we will be interviewing an individual that has done literally billions of dollars in sales within his organization. I think it's over 2 billion at this point, over 1 million customers in his career, been in the profession for 20 plus years, and is actually the #1 income earner in a very large international network marketing company. So if you're in network marketing, you're an online entrepreneur, you're wanting to build a business, I would highly recommend you share this broadcast, you tag some teammates, you take some notes, because Matt Morris is an individual that I've gotten to know over the years. Him and I connected years ago at an event. You know, I saw him speak on stage and I was like, hey, Matt, I think we have to talk because you're the kind of guy that I want to interview on my page. And years later, we finally did it. So here you go. We talked about it years ago, but we're officially doing it. And I'm just excited because Matt's really down to earth. You know, he's a great trainer. He teaches from a place of common sense. And a lot like the trainings that Nadia and I do for you guys, you know, he understands team building. He understands leadership and psychology. And listen, network marketing is not an easy business, right? But there are simple steps that just flat out work. It doesn't matter if you're selling a product, a service. It doesn't matter if you're building online or offline. These are principles. And these principles work whether you're building your business virtually, belly to belly, it doesn't matter. And I think most of us these days are understanding we have to build our business from home. We have to build our business online, but at the same time, the principles are still in place. And Matt's a guy that, like I said, has the ability to really teach from that perspective. He understands the online space. He's built offline. He's traveled the world. He's a #1. Baby, can you pull up the bio? Yeah. It's funny. I told her to put it up there. And then as soon as I start, she starts playing with things. #1 best-selling author and speaker. And he helps network marketers also create influence online. He's got over 150,000 followers on Instagram. But more importantly, like I said, man, he's built a business offline. He's built his business online. He speaks our language. And he's a dad. He's a husband. He's a guy that's built phenomenal businesses. And like I said, over 1 million customers. So I'm excited. Matt Morris, what's up? Welcome to the My Lifestyle Academy show. And I would love for you to start off with sharing with everybody. I know I kind of touched on it, your background, your story, but can you tell people how you got started, your humble beginnings, and when was that light bulb moment for you? Like, did it take some time to get to that point where you were understanding what you were a part of? Did you take it seriously right out of the gate, or did you kind of mess with it and kind of, you know, play with it like I did in the first couple of years?
Yeah, for sure. Awesome, dude. Crazy good intro. I love your energy, man. And likewise, I got to throw it back to you, man. You and Nadia just get it. And there's a lot of people online who are, you know, trading and selling products, and they've never really built it big. You guys have built it in the biggest way. And so every time I see one of your lives, every time I bought your courses, I mean, everything you guys put out is just spot on. So your organization that I know you build, and, you know, your followers online are blessed to have you, and we're all blessed to have you. So
I appreciate that, man.
And so I got started in network marketing when I was 18. I was in college working as a waiter. I was actually working for a temp company as a banquet waiter. And so I was working at a hotel one night and, you know, serving food. And there was this waitress that was also working the same banquet, and she was pretty cute. And we would, like, you know, we kept running into each other, you know, serving dinner and coffee and all this. And she kept initiating conversation, and I wasn't used to that. Right. So I think she's kind of hitting on me. I'm like, I think she's hitting on me. And so at one point she says, hey, do you ever think about being in business for yourself? And you know, I want to build a rapport with her. So I'm like, all the time, actually. And she says, well, why don't you write your number down and we'll talk business? I'm like, I'd love to. So give her my number. She calls me a couple days later. It says, hey, this is Mary Beth. We worked together the other night. I'm like, yeah. And she says, well, hey, I wanted to see if you wanted to meet me tomorrow night up at the Hilton Hotel and we can talk business about 7 p.m. And I'm like, all right. cute girl, 7 p.m., hotel,
There you go.
business, I'm in. So, but she said something weird at the end. At the end, it kind of like burst my bubble a little bit because she said, yeah, I'll introduce you to some of my business partners. So dress sharp. And I was like, all right, well. So anyway, so I show up. And
so you had no idea it was a meeting?
Yeah, I didn't think it was a meeting at first. When I agreed, I didn't say it was a meeting. I didn't know it was a meeting when I'm like, yeah, let's meet.
Right.
And she's like, oh, I'll introduce you to some of my business partners. Dress sharp. So like, whatever. So I put on a suit, I show up, and she ushers me into my first network marketing presentation. And I mean, I was blown away. I always wanted to make money. I grew up very poor, single mom who worked 2 and 3 jobs, working her way through college and then law school. And we lived in a trailer park, food stamps, welfare, like whole 9 yards, right? So always wanted to make a ton of money. I'm in college. I'm like biochemistry major, which I don't know how I even got in because my grades, I finished in the half of the class in high school that made the top half possible.
Yeah.
Right. My grades were about as good as the kid sitting next to me. And so not a great student. I'm like failing classes. I'm struggling. And I look at this, I'm like, holy cow, I can make a ton of money here. And I just very quickly realized it's, not going to be so easy, because I went and talked to some friends, and they immediately just shut me down. Because I kind of did like a softy. I did what you're not supposed to do, a soft, like explaining, hey, man, There's a way where we can make money, and it's you make money off other people. And they're like, dude, get out of here. And so then I kind of like, all right, I'm going to show up for meetings and I'll show up for trainings, but I'm not going to take it real serious, even though I'm really motivated. I didn't really, I don't know. I kind of tried it out. I was trying it out for a very long time.
You're a dabbler.
Yeah. After 2 years, I had sponsored 3 people, 2 of which I paid for to get in.
Nice.
One was my mom. I never even told her she was in. So
how did you guys build back then, by the way? Did you do
all 100% belly to belly? And
was it bringing people into an office?
No, this was hotel meetings.
Okay, so it was only hotel meetings,
one-on-ones, home parties.
Got it.
And so I, didn't have any success there. And what was interesting, here's how clueless I was to network marketing. It was about maybe a year and a half in. And I went to this, like, I don't know, some expo or something like that. And there was this guy presenting another network marketing company. And I thought the company I was in was the only network marketing company there was. And I remember thinking, I can't believe they're the only company that does this. I mean, why doesn't anyone else do this? It's genius.
Right.
And so I had no idea. There's 1,000 other companies that do this. So anyway, it was just interesting. And so then, I ended up joining another company and joining another company and joining another company. And, it was actually after my first couple years, I'm $30,000 in debt. Moved back in with my mom. I'm doing, a network marketing company. I'm not making any money. I dropped out of college. I don't have a job. I'm basically living off her, doing network marketing, partying all the time because I'm 21, 22 years old. And she says, you know what? You're adult enough to drop out of college, adult enough to have your own business, adult enough not to have a job. You're also adult enough to pay rent. So pay me rent at the end of the month or move out. And I was like, so crushed. Like, how could my mom not enable me to just like keep partying and having fun? So I took a job selling swimming pools. It's a company called the Pool Depot out of Dallas, Texas. And so they hired me on the spot. I went through 2 days of training. And they said, well, the leads that we have for you are in Southern Louisiana. This is July and August, 2 hottest months of the year. I have no money. I'm $30,000 in debt. I've maxed out pretty much all my credit cards. Like, I would play the game where I'd make the minimum payment on one card with like a cash advance from another card. So I got no money. I don't earn any commissions until the pool gets installed, which is 6 to 8 weeks out. So I've got like $150, $200 to my name that I can use to live on for these 2 months. And so I slept out of my car every night. I do 2 or 3 appointments. And I would say that was really my wake up call. I always say, how
old were you then?
21, 22 at the time.
So about 3-4 years after initially getting involved.
about 3 years, a little over 3 years after getting involved. And so I, I would bathe in gas station bathrooms. I went in, I thought, truckers, they bathe in truck stops and showers. So I tried showering in truck stops, and you have to fill up with like 100 gallons of fuel in order to use their showers. So I got rejected. And so I would just like take off my clothes in nasty gas station bathrooms, and I would, bathe in the sink, put my clothes back on. And that was my normal routine. And, they say there's two motivators in life, the desire for pleasure and the avoidance of pain. Well, this is where I really got that the avoidance of pain is a much bigger motivator.
Right.
And so while I was fairly miserable at the time, looking back on it, it's an amazing experience. I mean, I wouldn't trade it for anything. I showered naked in a church parking lot one night because it was pouring down rain. I'm sleeping out of my car, and I'm thinking if I go in the next morning smelling like I do now, there's no way they're buying a pool. So I showered from the gutter runoff from a church. And it was kind of that night. I mean, I got back in my car, and that's where I had to come to Jesus talk with myself, where like I took inventory of my life and said, all right, I'm 21 years old, homeless, $30,000 in debt, bathing in gas station bathrooms. I'm, lonely, living out of my car. I got no career, anything going on in my career right now. Something's got to change. And I listened to a Tony Robbins cassette. It was, I think, Unlimited Power. And he said, if you want to have a lot, and it was something I had listened to before, but it wasn't the right time. And so I listened to it that night with a different set of ears. And I was just so hungry for something to change. And so he said, the secret to success is modeling. Find someone else who's had a lot of success, figure out what they did, do what they did, and you can have success yourself. And Tony talked about reading 700 books and that giving him the insights and all that. And I thought, well, you know what? I don't have a career. I don't even have a mentor right now. I'm not in a network marketing company at the moment. So I'll do that. And so as I'm living out in my car, I would read a new book every 2 or 3 days. And any extra money I had, I would actually I'd find bookstores in whatever town I was in. I would go into bookstores, and I'd just sit for hours. I would sit in the floor or the chair if I was lucky in a bookstore, and I'd read their books. And when they'd close, I'd, mark the page. I'd come back the next day, and I'd finish the next morning, and I'd come back and finish the book. And I just remember there was so many insights that I had when I really took personal development seriously. And it was a conscious reinvention process. I had read this article about the human body. It was called What the Cell is Going On. And it talked about how every cell in the human body will regenerate itself every 3 to 7 years. So 7 years from now, we won't have a single cell in our body that's the same as we have now. And if you have the right nutrition and water and all this stuff, you can reinvent your health. And I just thought, man, if you can reinvent your body, surely I can reinvent my financial success and my lifestyle. And so I began that process. And, when I got a job, thankfully, that wasn't living out of my car. And then when I got back into network marketing, the big difference was, and it was about 1.5 years or so that I kind of was not aggressive, not really building network marketing. I think I was in a company, but just kind of buying products. But I got laid off from the software company that I had gone to work for. And when I got laid off, I realized, I said, you know what, there's no security in having a job. So I've had this in the network marketing thing I can't get rid of. It's like it's in my blood.
Right.
The lifestyle that I ultimately want, I know is going to come from network marketing. And so when I decided to get back into it, and that time when I got back into it, it was like with a vengeance. It was a savage mentality, to use your
there we go.
Yeah. So I came back, and I was really kind of a savage. It was like, I'm going to be a professional. And that was a big distinction. I never decided to go pro. I wasn't going to be a professional. It wasn't my career. It was like, here's the thing that I do on the side. And if it works out, it's going to be awesome. But I didn't, take it seriously. And so when I decided to get back in, not only was I focused on personal development, I said, you know what, if I want to be a professional network marketer, and that's what I want my career to be about, I better go to network marketing school like a doctor would go to law school. And so I better start reading network marketing books, not just mindset and sales books and communication skills and all that. Let me read network marketing specific books. And so I just started devouring anything I could get my hands on when it came to network marketing specific stuff. And so, that's where things really started to happen. And it wasn't overnight. I mean, I definitely had a learning process. I got to where I could use my sales skills to get people in. In fact, at one point in my career, I had built an organization of 150 people, which was, to me, insane that 150 people on the team. But the challenge was I had learned to be a great salesperson because my last 2 jobs were in sales. And so I mastered closing. I mean, in-home sales is an example. You either get the sale or you get kicked out, right? And so that was kind of my mentality with network marketing, not understanding that it's a different type of selling. And so of the 150, I had personally sponsored 90 of those.
Jeez.
And I had another guy on my team who was a super salesman, and I taught him, I gave him my scripts and I taught him my sales technique, and he had personally sponsored the rest. We had 2 people under him. So 0 duplication at all, none. And, so that was a wake up call. It was all right, I've figured out how to find people to talk to. I figured out how to close and present, but no duplication. So I don't know how all right, I got to focus on building relationships and getting people started. And so anyway, it's been an amazing, amazing journey. Lots of ups and downs. It took me basically 5 years of banging my head against a wall, trying to figure it out before I finally, before it all really came together. And when it came together in a pretty big way. In a 2-year time frame, built a team of 10,000 people. Which was all before social media. It was actually before texting. Can you imagine not having WhatsApp or not having texting? So it was I averaged 7,000 minutes, minimum 7,000 minutes a month on my cell phone back then. And because you had to, if you're promoting an event, you had to call people. And I remember I'd wake up and
Were there 3-way calls back then?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Heck
You
yeah.
can still do 3-way calls, just couldn't text.
Oh, yeah. 3-way calls all day long. So yeah, but yeah, it was crazy.
Cell phones back then were a little different. In fact, you probably were mostly using a home phone or something, right? I mean,
no, actually, I did have a home phone, but then I got lucky. I got a Primeco phone, and then I got this unlimited plan. It was unlimited minutes for $100 a month, something like that.
Wow. Yeah, because we used to work out of offices, so we had literally a desk phone, and I mean it was really overpriced. Plus, dude, you had long distance. Actually, I'm just remembering this. You had to pay for long distance calls. Yeah.
I was laughing a couple of days ago because, remember when you were a kid growing up, and someone would call and be like, "Hey, it's long distance."
Right.
No one understands that concept anymore. Yeah. At one point, I remember when I was doing network marketing before the cell phone, before the unlimited plan. Yeah, I would spend hundreds of dollars a month on my long distance bill. It was I remember getting a bill for $900 on my long distance, and I didn't even make $900 in commissions.
Right. I think I still owe MCI some money. Whatever they were called, MCI. Yeah, that's crazy, man. Back in the heyday. So you were 23. Decided, all right, I'm going to stop playing with this thing. So kind of similar to our story, I kind of got into network marketing. First company I was with went out of business. So I kind of got out of it, went into mortgages. And then you had that itch, because when you're selling stuff, you know the deal. It's you're only as good as your last month. Every month you start all over at 0. With network marketing, it's just you keep hearing that residual income conversation. You're like, I can't ignore it. It's you find out about residual income and you can't act like it doesn't exist, right? And then you got the leverage concept. So when you got serious, you built a team of 10,000, 2 years. I'm assuming you started earning 6 figures after that.
Yeah, I was 6 figures at 24, multiple 6 figures at 25. So got up to 40,000 a month, which was insane, from going from 5 years of struggling and wondering what's wrong with me, feeling defeated, seeing all these people who are joining after me, but they're passing me up, and just thinking maybe I'm not cut out for this network marketing thing. And, one of the big things was also when I decided to go all in, I decided to just work like a maniac. And I mean, I just was, I always had the chicken list. I'd make a list of names, but I wouldn't call them. And, It's a big aha for a lot of people, but I would create a list of names, but I would call the people who I thought would haven't like, yeah, maybe they'll do it. But the people I thought, oh, they'll never do it, I wouldn't call them. And so
Right.
at all cost, I tried to avoid rejection.
Right.
And that was one of the biggest challenges for me, was just getting over rejection. And when I finally decided, you know what, I'm just going to let it all out. I'm going to call everyone. And my job is not to enroll them. It's not to sponsor them. It's to basically show them what I'm doing and collect a decision. And, I want everyone in my life to get that this is what I'm doing. And, when I finally kind of took that attitude, that's when I started having success. And my upline, my mentor in that company that I had my first success in, on a scale of 1 to 10, he was a 10. Amazing on stage, an incredible presenter, good looking guy. People hung on every word he said. He just understood personal development and leadership and all this stuff, right? And I'm looking at him going, man, and he had made over $1 million in network marketing. And I just remember thinking, man, he's a 10, I'm a 4 at best. I've been doing network marketing for almost probably 5 years at the time, never gotten full time. So how can I ever make the kind of money that he is making? And, was reminded of Jim Rohn's, one of Jim Rohn's Building Your Network Marketing Business, where he says, if someone's 10 times better, you still win if you're willing to work 10 times harder, right? And so I just was like, all right, I'm going to outwork everyone. And I worked like crazy. I did more presentations in a 90-day period than I had done in the last probably 5 years. And because of that, my skill level started getting better and better and better and better. And, I still afraid of public speaking. I was making a 6-figure income before I got on stage. I was a good, I was proud of the fact that I was a good body dragger. I could drag people to presentations and calls and stuff like that, but I was never the presenter. People in my downline were presenting, but I wasn't. And my mentor one day was like, dude, you're presenting. Like, no, I'm not. Yeah, you are. And, I still remember the first time I ever did a live presentation. It was at a hotel. There were supposed to be 100 people in the room. Thankfully, only 6 guests showed up. 3 walked out. And, there's the old saying that I have said a million times, and it's not true. You can't say the wrong thing to the right person or the right thing to the wrong person. I'm proof you can say the wrong thing to the right person, because one of the guys who walked out because I was so bad, I mean, I barely got through the presentation. I forgot everything. I was just terrible. Someone else showed him the presentation a few months later. He joined and became one of the top earners in the company.
There you go.
Yeah.
I totally agree. I say that all the time. You can definitely say the wrong thing to the right person, or you just say too much to the right person. You completely overwhelm them. And, I have to say, you're the first person I've talked to that had people presenting on his team before he was, because you were terrified of public speaking. I was the exact same way. Really? I had this guy, Matt's son. Anyway, Matt was literally doing presentations before I was, and people were making fun of me. I'm like, I don't care. They told me all I had to do was put butts in the chairs and I can make a lot of money. Yeah. They never said anything about public speaking. So yeah, you were the same way. You had people presenting, and it's funny because it's so de-edifying too, but just you're a stubborn personality. It's like, I don't care. I'm not going up there.
I didn't care at all.
I was
so scared to get up and give a testimony.
Right.
I mean, I would get up and give one because I was like the top earning, guy in this like startup company, and you got the top earner who won't present. It was ridiculous. So.
Right. Yeah, I would black out. Like, I just told him, like, I'm not doing it. They got me to do a testimonial, and I blacked out. Yeah, it was actually, I had to introduce what it was. It wasn't even a testimony. I had to just introduce the next speaker. And there were a bunch of people in the room too. I remember it was a full room. It was probably 50, 60, 70. It was just, dude, my knees were shaking. I don't get it. Yeah. It's just funny how the people that are most terrified end up being great speakers later.
It was probably the first 100 times I ever got on stage. I was crazy nervous.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm like, is this never going to go away?
Right.
Like wanting to not speak. Like I would do it because I just had a lot of desire and, felt like I had to or whatever. And I knew it made me money, but I didn't like it for
Right.
a long time. It took me forever to get over, that fear of public speaking. So,
Right. How did you get over it? Because I know that was one of the things we want to talk about is overcoming
yeah.
fear. What would be, for people that maybe are afraid of doing videos,
Hmm.
maybe they're afraid to reach out to that chicken list. Maybe they're afraid to be a leader for their team. They're starting to build a team, but they're just nervous about how to lead other people because they're still struggling with leading themselves.
Yeah.
Maybe we can kind of talk about that because I know that's one of the things you love talking about is overcoming fear and leadership.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a handful of things over the years, and I just when I think I've conquered fear, another one shows up, right?
Mhm.
And hopefully, it will always be that way, because if you don't have fear, it means you're not growing and you're not pushing yourself. And so,
Right.
I'm glad I still have some fear in different things, and fear is never going to go away. And that's one, I think, realization is that everyone has it. There used to be this brand. I don't know if you remember the No Fear brand.
Yeah.
Yeah. On the back of, cars and shirts that said no fear, which is just total BS. I mean, there's no such thing as no fear.
Right.
So one of mine was a couple. One is, if we're going to have fear anyway, and this was from reading Susan Jeffers' book, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway,
Mm.
adopt a different fear, the fear of living in helplessness the rest of your life. And
Mm.
so when it came to, all right, I need to go do this presentation, or I need to speak on stage, but I don't want to because I'm fearful. How do I get my courage to override the fear? And of course, courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is when you have the fear, but you do it anyway. So how do I make the courage bigger than the fear? Is adopt a different fear. And
Mm.
living in helplessness became a bigger fear. Having to go to bed at night, beating myself up because I was too cowardly to go do the thing that I knew I needed to do. I let that be a bigger fear. Having a fear of being average, I let that be a bigger fear. And so I let one fear kick the other one's ass. Okay. So that kind of the way I look at it, and you may, like, some people I think I'm schizophrenic when I talk about this, but I think we all have different personalities within us.
Mhm.
I have a personality within me that wants to kind of hide away. I'm not really naturally outgoing. I've learned to be able to speak and train. And if I'm in a network marketing room, if it's my environment, no one would ever think I'm shy, because I'll go give hugs to everyone and high fives, because it's a community that I'm comfortable in. But if
Right.
you put me in a party with people I don't know, the only thing I want to do is get out. I don't want to be there. I feel socially awkward. And I have that part of me. I know I've got that part, right? And so it's part of who I am. So there's times where I've consciously come up with an alter ego. Um, and the alter ego, I call it El Mateo. So El Mateo is the alter ego to the guy who just wants to hide away. And that's the guy who's the god of war. He's, ultimately powerful. He can do anything. And I heard Tony Robbins say this one time. It's like, how do you get your dog to come to you? Well, you give it a name, you call it by name. So my
Mm.
dog Bella, I'll say, come Bella, come. Right. And so how do I get El Mateo to come out? I call him. I'm like, bring it on, El Mateo. So before this podcast, guess what I'm doing? I'm going, El Mateo, come on, bring on the power. So I have this, I know I have two parts of me. I think we all have two parts. It's a matter of calling out the part that's going to be more powerful, and living in that more than you're living in the personality that's not so powerful. And so
Right.
those are a couple things that works with me. And one of the big things for me is I know that the only way to get rid of the fear is to do the thing that you're afraid of. That's old cliched advice, but
Mhm.
it's only cliche because it's true.
Right.
And a lot of the reasons why people don't stay consistent. It's like if someone wants to build a brand online, one of the best things that you can do is doing live videos. And we know that it's hard to debate it, but we make up excuses like, oh, I don't know what to say. I don't like how I look. I don't have the right microphone. I don't have the right lighting. And you make up all these excuses. Well, I think it's important that we have the awareness that those excuses are really a justification for a fear.
Yep.
Instead of saying, oh my God, I am fearful of doing this on a regular basis, we make up stuff. I don't know what to talk about, who's going to want to hear from me? You know, what if people don't like me? What if I look awkward? What if I suck? What if I freeze up? You probably will. All of those things. You probably are going to suck. You probably are going to freeze up. That's just the nature. I've done all of those things. If I look at my first videos, years ago, like, I don't know, 10 or 11 years ago, I've said, all right, I'm going to start building a YouTube channel. I'll just do a couple videos a week or 1 or 2 a week and just be consistent with that. If I look at my first videos, they were awful, terrible. I look amazingly awkward. But I just kept doing it. And so one is acknowledge the fear. Yes, I have the fear. What's a bigger fear? What's going to be more powerful than that? What is it for you? Obviously, we all talk about have a why that's bigger than your fear. That's all, important. But, we've heard that stuff a lot.
Right.
So, and then there's something that, Napoleon Hill wrote almost 100 years ago. He talked about cosmic habit force. Cosmic habit force is when you do something long enough, it becomes part of you. It's like eating, going to the bathroom. You don't have to discipline yourself to eat. You don't have to discipline yourself to go to the bathroom. I know that's a crazy analogy there, but it's part of you. And doing public speaking, I had to do it enough until it became part of me. And I had to discipline myself. Same thing with live videos. I write an email to my newsletter every single day. So every day I've done 155, 160 days in a row. Every morning I write a piece of content.
Wow.
And I've created content a lot over the years, but never that specifically an email that I send to my list. Like I send a daily golden nugget.
When did you start getting into the internet marketing side of things? Because you're one of those rare versions of network marketers that wasn't anti the internet.
Yeah, I don't talk about this a lot, but I got started back in 2001 or 2002. I built one of the first internet network marketing systems. When there was hardly anyone doing anything like that.
Right.
And
most of them didn't even have computers then. That's kind of crazy. In 2001, I didn't have a home computer.
Media wasn't a thing.
Right.
When I started my first, we built lead capture pages and sales and autoresponder follow-ups. I hired a programmer. I had 3 programmers on staff at one time because you needed 3 programmers to run this. 35,000 customers and about 4 or 5 different network marketing companies that were using our marketing system. And I ran that company. We did several $1 million and built some huge groups with it. And so I've been doing it a long time. Social media, I guess it was probably 11 years or so ago when I got serious about, focusing on building a social media following. And I've made so many mistakes. It's crazy to think of all the missed opportunities. And, that's just, I think, part of the game. And so, I've been doing it a long time. And there's 2 schools of thought. You have a lot of network marketing leaders out there who are very old school. And I'm old school in some ways. I got started doing belly to belly, and I believe in old school. I just also believe in new school.
Right.
I do think it's all about relationships. I think the reason to go into the cold market and recruit into the cold market is to tap into someone else's warm market. If I look at my organization now, I've personally sponsored about 300 people through social media, and a lot of those teams have not duplicated at all, but some have duplicated massively, tens of thousands, well over 100,000 people from people I've recruited online. Now, I'm not telling everyone don't do social media because that would be crazy. It makes no sense not to, but I think if you don't know it, you're fearful of it.
Yeah.
I just had a call this morning with a group and they're wanting to make this major change. And immediately I was fearful of it. I got this my heart feels like it's closing in because I don't really understand it and I don't know it. And I think a lot of leaders in our profession don't really know it. And so they're just fearful because they've always done it a certain way.
Right.
I think on the other hand, there's a lot of, and I know you guys are not like this, but there's a lot of internet marketers, social media marketers who are very anti-old school. They're like, don't make a list of names, don't talk to your friends and family. And that's, I think, ludicrous. If you look at most of the companies, pretty much all of the companies that have had huge momentum, they get momentum because of the referral of a trusted friend or a family member, right? So I'm a big fan of both. So social media is in addition to, old school marketing is in addition to. There's no reason why you shouldn't do both.
Right. It's just another tool, just another way to communicate with people. And, obviously in today's day and age, everybody's being forced. It's interesting seeing some of those old school companies where they're being forced into doing Zooms instead of PBRs or home parties or home meetings. Yeah.
And I see, like, here, what I've seen over the years, and I owned a network marketing company, and we had two different groups. I had a marketing system kind of built into the company, and then we had a lot of old school marketers. And what I saw, we had 15 different people that had personally sponsored over 1,000 people. Lots of internet marketing activity. And then we had the old school guys who didn't really do any internet marketing. They did hotel meetings and one-on-ones and home parties and all that. And what I saw on the internet marketing side was a lot of recruiting, not as much duplication.
Right.
On the other side, a lot of duplication, but not as much personal recruiting. So you'd have someone who had only personally sponsored 40 or 50 people, but they're making 20 or 30,000 a month. And then you have a guy who's personally sponsored 3,000 and he's only making 10,000 a month. So
yeah, I mean, if you're bringing people in, but they're quitting just as quickly as they're joining, that's not network marketing. That's sales. You're essentially selling people on a business and then hoping they figure it out on their own. And it's just not the way it works. I mean, you have to have a system in place. And you also have to provide support. A lot of people, they also get hung up on automation and systems. And look, I love all that stuff, but I'm also communicating with that person, especially when they're brand new, right? You might have someone that has huge potential, but if you're not there to support them, you're not willing to connect and help them build their business in the beginning, they're probably going to quit. Most people aren't that self-motivated.
Yeah. And I've seen that for me, of the people that I've sponsored, the ones that have duplicated are the ones where I proactively, it's like, hey, let's get on the phone, let's talk. Because, you may have people who enroll without ever talking to you. But the way I kind of look at it is, if you sponsor someone, you don't really have someone until they've sponsored someone, and they're unlikely to do that without some type of relationship. And so, when you can solidify the relationship, you're going to have a lot more duplication, a lot more action, because actions follow feelings. If you look at behavioral psychology, actions come from feelings of belief. And if someone joins, they join because they had enough belief to join, but they may not have enough belief to take action. And so when you can talk to them, build a relationship, they feel a lot more comfortable. Okay, this is real. Now I'll talk to my friends about it. Now I'll actually go take action. And I think our job as leaders is to be a facilitator of increasing belief. And so you have to do that with your new people. You have to do that with your leaders. It's why I'm, always talking about personal development. It's why we build such a strong event culture. We've had to transition to online events, which have worked out really well.
Nice.
And, but it's just all about giving someone belief, because I think for someone to go all in network marketing and hit the top rank, what that requires is a major decision. And major decisions are facilitated at peak emotional moments. So how do you facilitate peak emotional moments for people? It's not just a phone call. It's not your prospecting call. It's generally some type of training event, whether it's a Super Saturday training or a 2-day weekend event, something like that. When I joined my current company about 11 years ago, I was very clear, because I had done old school and I had done online marketing. I'd kind of done both. And so I'm like, all right, I'm going to use the online marketing stuff, but I'm going to be pushing people to events. And so my strategy was get them in and get them to an event, get them in and get them to an event. And what I saw was the people attending events are making way more money, way more success than the people who weren't. And the people who weren't were typically kind of like falling off.
Right.
So So I think we're facilitators of belief
Yeah.
as leaders. I think that's one of our number one jobs.
No, events were everything for me in the early years. We would go to these EPs, educational programs. And then years later in a different company, they would have a convention every 3 months with, 10, 15,000 people.
Mhm.
And, it's belief in ourselves, but also when you see that many people, you believe that the company is legit. You see all these people, different walks of life, different races and religious, beliefs, like different types of people, men, women, young, old. And you're like, okay, this is legit. You got professionals, you got people that, owned a traditional business or, are already millionaires and they're having success. And you got the school teacher, the stay-at-home mom, you got the busy college student. You see all these people and you're like, if they can do it, I can do it. And that's why I tell people, and it does kind of suck right now because we can't really do events. We don't have a choice, right? But if you are building online, and most of our audience obviously does build online, you have to have live events. They're paramount because you can't really build that type of connection and build that belief in someone just through the internet. You can do quite a bit through the internet, but when they go to an event, they go from being a liability to an asset. They go from asking questions to answering questions. You can break bread with them, take pictures, high fives, handshakes, hugs, all the stuff you're talking about before. And it's paramount if someone's building online to also have and promote the heck out of the offline events because they feed each other. They really do.
It's the way I talk about it. It's a multiple sort. Okay, so you're sorting through the no's to get the yeses. You have to sort through the yeses to get the builders, and you have to sort through the builders to find the leaders. And I get way too much credit for creating leaders. We've had, lots of $1 million earners and all that. And I really haven't created those leaders. My strategy is getting those leaders or the builders to events. And then the event turns the yes or the builder into the leader, because that's where we facilitate the major decision. And one of the challenges that I see out there is there are a lot of companies that don't do a lot of live events. And so people will say, oh, well, my company doesn't do live events, so we're just going to do online events. No, don't use that as an excuse.
Right.
Ray Higdon does events. I think you guys do events. Eric Worre does events. There's events out there. Get your team to those events, because I'm telling you, you'll make way more money. Eric told me at a mastermind that he did one time, he said, you'll earn on average about $1,000 per year per person attending events. So if you have 10 people attending major events, you'll be making about 10,000 a year. 100 people attending events, you'll be making 100,000 a year. And I was like, I wonder if that's true. And so I looked at mine, because at the time I had hundreds of, well over 100,000 people in my group. I'm like, well, for me, that's not really true because there's so many attending events, but let me call a bunch of my leaders. So I did a little experiment. I called about 10 or 12 leaders and I said, hey, how much money did you make last month? And how many people did you have attend the last event? And I averaged them all out, and it was like $965 per person that they had attending events. Some people were more, some people were less, but you're going to make way more money just by getting people to events. And what I see is, like, you can push and push and push. You get about 15 people attending events, and then you have enough people that kind of kick in, and you start seeing some serious growth.
Right.
You get 100 people to an event on your team, and then momentum starts happening, because you got enough of those that have so much belief that they're taking massive action. And so that's been a huge, huge component of, my building strategy, is just the events, and then having the team understand the strategy and, duplicating.
Yeah. And it's interesting too, because sometimes people they get frustrated because they're like, I don't have anybody on my team that is all that serious. And I'm like, well, how many of those people have been to an event? How many of those people have gone to one of the big company events or been to any type of event outside of just hopping on a conference call, watching some training videos? And typically the answer is probably not many or none at all. And that's why, right? It's hard to groom up leadership and develop people and like you said, you don't really develop them anyway. They develop themselves, but it's hard to groom leadership in your organization if you don't have people that are as committed as you. And a big commitment is going to an event, investing the money, the time.
And to piggyback on that, there are so many people in my group that will never relate to me.
Right.
So even though I've made a ton of money and had more success than most people, they don't relate to me because they're like, oh yeah, well, he's him. Like I don't relate. Well, when I get them to an event and they see John, the truck driver, quit his job and he's making $100,000 a year, they relate to him. And
Right.
that goes back to one of the things that you mentioned for people who are afraid of doing live video. Here's the deal. Whatever is true about you makes you uniquely able to relate to people in a way that me or John never could. They'll never relate to us, but they will for you, because if you're afraid of the camera, there are millions of people afraid of the camera. If you struggle with self-doubt, millions of people struggle with self-doubt. Whatever your excuse for not doing videos, that's the reason to do the video.
Right.
You'll relate to people on a level that no one else in the world can. And so rather than focus on the fear and you being worried about how people are looking at you, focus on serving others. There's a lot of other people that you will serve if you can get over yourself and just focus on value.
Yeah. Well, it is interesting too, because in the beginning, I didn't have any idea what I was going to talk about in videos. I had no idea what my brand was going to be, but I was like, I'm just going to educate. I'm going to train. I'm going to teach. I'm going to share insights and things that I've learned, things that I'm learning, and just provide value, like you said, and see where it goes. And eventually you get the hang of it. Eventually it becomes a routine, and you embrace the fear, do it anyway. Like you said, embrace the suck, because you will suck in the beginning. In fact, if you don't suck when you start doing videos, that means you waited too long.
Yeah.
Right. That means you waited too long. But it was a quote by Brene Brown that I really liked recently. She says, choose courage over comfort. Right. Choose courage over comfort. And I love that, because it's not about confidence in the beginning. It's really about being courageous, and success lives outside your comfort zone. So many of us are comfortable not doing videos, not putting our face on camera. Right. And, there's a reason you got started. You got to remember why you got started in the first place. There's a reason why you're struggling, because you're staying in your comfort zone. So you just have to be okay with the fact that you are going to suck, that maybe some people do make fun of you. Maybe your brother-in-law does make fun of you. Maybe your own spouse, your parents, they might make fun of you, but so what, right? You don't want to do what they're doing. They don't pay your bills. So ultimately you have to make a decision. How bad do you want it? And the video part is just one aspect of getting outside your comfort zone. You talked about the chicken list. I started earning 6 figures in network marketing in 2008 because we started going after higher quality people. And of course, we still got rejection. We still had people telling us no. But when a quality person, a person with influence, a person that had already had success said yes, dude, they brought other influential people to the table. And it was amazing how quickly those teams grew, because one good business owner, one good influencer, one person that has a great reputation, they get started and they start bringing people like them to the table. And it's like, they don't just add on people, they multiply. It starts popping like popcorn. And then that's where you realize, like, shit, I better have a system in place. I better have something in place, because I literally can't handle all the people that are joining my team. And that's where leadership development is so crucial. And that's why you need the events. You need higher level training. And then the other thing I wanted you to talk about a little bit before we wrap up, because I know we've had you here for about 45 minutes or so, closing. If you don't mind closing it out with talking about closing, because like you said, at one point you got really good at closing, like in a kind of in a sales way of doing things, right? Your method was more like closing people, but not like teaching them how to build a business. It was just about getting the sale, getting the person in, but not duplicating. So maybe you could talk about some of your best advice. People want to close more sales. They want to, have a better result when they're following up with their prospects, to get that person to pull the trigger, get started, but not feel like they're that typical sleazy, pushy salesperson. So maybe you could talk about that, and then we can wrap it up.
Yeah, for sure. So a couple things. One is the mindset. The biggest fear out there is the fear of rejection. They say it's the fear of public speaking, but the fear of public speaking is really just the fear of being rejected publicly, right?
True.
So it's getting over the fear of rejection. And how do you get over it? You got to do it. And here's one of the, I think, mental strategies, a handful of mental strategies that are more important than the tactics. If tactics were enough, we'd all be rich, skinny, and happy. It's never about the tactics. It's more about the philosophy and the mindset behind the tactics. And so One of the things for me just became number one, not putting so much pressure on myself to close everyone, realizing that the best in the world might close 1 out of 3. So if you're the best in the world, you're going to get rejected. You're going to get told no twice more than you get told yes. Now, most people are not closing 1 out of 3. They're closing 1 out of 5, 1 out of 10, whatever it is for you. But you have to get a lot more no's compared to the yeses. And obviously we get paid on the yeses, but the only way to get to the yeses is to go through the no's. So in essence, we get paid for the no's as well. And when I realized, holy cow, I get paid on no's, I had a tracking sheet that I used to keep. And when I get into blitz mode, I print this tracking sheet out and I tape it on my desk. And I have, all right, here's how many invites I did. Here's how many presentations I did personally for the team, personal enrolled, team enrolled, how many no's I got for the day. And when I just focused on like, how many no's can I get every single day, I'm going to make more money. And so when you get a no, when you get off the call, you finish the meeting and your mind be like, cha-ching, I just made some money, because that leads me closer to a yes, because the only way to get a yes is to go through a bunch of no's, right? So that's number one, is you got to get okay with that. You get paid on it. So if that helps you, learn to go for no. It's a great book that I think everyone should read, is Go for No.
Well, I'd also like to point this out too. A lot of my yeses are people that said no at one point.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, how many times have we signed up someone that, like, you know, after weeks, months, or years, they're like, hey, I'm ready. Let's go. But at one point that was a no. So who cares? A no is just the beginning. No is just the beginning.
And that's a teaching point, is be cool with your
Right.
people. Because they said no to you doesn't mean they don't like you, doesn't mean they think you're stupid, doesn't mean they think you're in a pyramid. They just said no. So be cool, because you can get them later. But if you're not cool and you're like, well, just stick with your job, your pyramid scheme at work, you know, you're like, they're never going to join you. So be cool. So the purpose of the goal of presentation should be to strengthen the relationship that you have with your friend, whether they join or not. So if they don't join, the end result is you strengthened the connection with the person that you just presented to. Right. So if it's not for them, you're thinking that, hey, it means the world. Would you mind if I just kept you updated on what I'm doing? Would you mind if I just kept you updated on what I'm doing? And they're going to almost always say yes. And so you can drip on them later, you know, every month or two. Hey, we just came out with a new product, or this happened. I just hit a rank. I just had someone in my group hit a rank. And timing can be different. There was a guy that I presented to for about almost 3 years. And he told me no for almost 3 years. But I just kept, every few months, I would drip on him and see if things changed. And I called him one day and he's like, you know what? I'm ready. Because he saw that I was serious about it and committed, and he joined and ended up building a huge organization. It took me almost 3 years to enroll him, but I was cool with him. So be cool with people. And I will tell you, you know, I hated the closing process. When the video presentation was over at the end of a meeting, I would get nervous, anxiety, like, oh shit, I got to ask them to join now. And the presentation would be over and I'd be like, so what did you think? Which is not a great question. You know, there's two sides of the brain. You have the analytical and logical side, and you have the emotional side. And people make decisions based on emotion way more than they do logic. And so I would recommend, don't ask a logical question, ask an emotional question, or at least be emotional. So, you know, if you want someone to be excited, you need to be excited. If you want someone to be committed enough to join, you need to be amazingly committed. So your closing ratio is going to be largely based on your level of commitment and belief. And they need to get that. And now, how do they get that? You tell them. So I recommend a 3-step setup. So whenever you're sharing your opportunity, whether it's someone you meet on social media, it's a friend, family member, whoever, go through and, hey, number one, share your why. Hey, here's why I decided to do this. Because a lot of salespeople and network marketers are just ramming your opportunity or ramming your product down someone's throat. Okay. And it comes across as like, they're immediately skeptical.
Right.
And people love to buy, but they don't like to be sold. And so what happens is, when you start with authenticity, you're saying, hey, I appreciate you sitting down with me. As you know, over the last few years, I've had, you know, fairly good success with my company, but we had a major downturn. This happened. It's put me in a lot of debt, and it's forced me to figure out what I want to do with the rest of my life. And so I've been looking for something else. And this is where, so number one is share your why. So you open up, share your why, you be authentic. And by you being authentic, you give them permission to be authentic. You give them permission to put their guard down, because you're not being the cheesy salesperson. You're not ramming your product and service. You're being real. So number two, it's letting them know it's big and you're all in. Say, listen, I'm all in on this. Like, I've never been all in on anything in my life. This is a big, big deal. And then the third thing is it's cool either way. So listen, if you love it, great. If not, that's totally cool. But if there's anyone I'd love to partner up with, it's you. Or like, I like to give a compliment at the end. People do business with people they like.
Right.
Now, how do you get people to like you? You like them. If you think about the people in your life that you like the most, why do you like them? Because they like you. Why do you love your parents? Why do our kids love us? Because we love them first. So one of my focus is I genuinely want to focus on what can I like and love about this person? Because when I like and love someone, they're going to like and love me back more than likely. And they're way more likely to join my team. So that's just kind of a personality, how to win friends and influence people thing. So share your why, let them know it's big and all in. Because if you don't, if someone thinks you're just trying it out, if this is like a little like, it's okay. If there's no certainty, conviction, confidence, they're very unlikely to join. And then it's cool either way. So, hey, there's no pressure. If you love it, great. If not, that's great too. So that opens them up. So that's one. One is the setup. The other is a couple mindset things. Convince yourself you love to close. Like, I genuinely now, I love the closing process. To me, it's a game. I like it. I used to hate it and I was bad at it. You're going to be bad at things you hate. So how do you learn to love something? You program yourself to love it. Stop telling yourself every time you say something about yourself, you make it more true. So if you say I'm a bad closer, as soon as you say that, it becomes a little bit more true. As soon as you say, I'm afraid to ask for the business, it becomes a little bit more true. Okay. So convince yourself that you love to close. The number one reason why people don't join is they're not asked to join. We had a guy locally here who on the team, he came to one of our presentations, goes home, ends up, signing up. And I don't understand how, like, I don't know the story until months later. And this guy hits rank. He hits, he's got a team of like 100 people on his team. And he gets up to tell his story. And he's like, yeah, when so-and-so, I'll change the name to protect the guilty. When Dennis showed me the presentation, it was like, I saw it and I was ready to join, but he didn't ask me to join. And I thought, does he not want me on his team? I went home and I was pissed. And so I called him the next day and said, hey, can I join that deal with you? And he's like, yeah, of course. So people need to be asked. I had a girl on my team. She went through 14 no's in a row. And she's like really personable. People love her, amazing personality. I'm like, how could she get 14 no's in a row? So I start dissecting it. What are you saying here? What are you saying here? What are you doing here? She's doing everything perfect. I said, when the presentation's over, what are you saying? She goes, I ask them what they like best. And I said, well, what do you do after that? And she says, well, they tell me. I said, well, what do you do after that? She goes, well, we just kind of talk. I said, well, are you asking them? She goes, oh. So she started asking people, and then she started having success. And then the final thing I'll say on it is our job as networkers, same job as that we have as leaders. It's to be a coach. It's to take someone from where they are to where they want to be. Our job is to help people, is to do what's in their best interest, not our best interest. I know beyond a shadow of a doubt, and you should know beyond a shadow of a doubt, if you sponsor someone, if they join your company, if they're coachable, if they're teachable, if they'll follow the system, and if they'll not quit, they can change their life forever. So you're doing them a disservice by not asking them to join.
Right.
And I feel kind of a little sorry for them. I'm never going to say I feel sorry for you. I'm never going to be arrogant. I'm never going to be cocky. I'm going to be a friend. But that's genuinely how I feel. What I feel, and I would encourage you to adopt this feeling, adopt this belief. The blessing, when I sponsor someone, the blessing is I'm not the one getting the blessing for them joining my team. They're getting the blessing for having the opportunity and having me as their support.
Right.
So if you're feeling like you recruiting people is a blessing to you, you need to change it around and realize that you can bless people in the biggest way imaginable. If they say yes, they're coachable, they're teachable, they'll follow the system, and they don't quit, you can change people's lives forever. And so if someone says no, cool. Don't force them to join. It's like if your opportunity is a life raft, it's a lifesaver, and there are people drowning everywhere, and they need the lifesaver. So you throw them the lifesaver and they won't take it. And you're like, take the lifesaver, take the lifesaver. Why won't you take the lifesaver? You need this. You're struggling, take the lifesaver. And while you're trying to convince someone who's never going to take the lifesaver to take the lifesaver, there's people everywhere drowning that will take the lifesaver if you'll offer it. So take the lifesaver, pull it back from the person who doesn't want it, and start giving it to the people who do. And realize that you are the blessing and your opportunity is the blessing. And I think you can influence the world.
That's it, man. That's it. And you can see you've got the posture, the belief, the confidence. Like you're somebody that people want to follow. They want to work with someone that believes in their potential. And that's why not only do you close people, right? Closing people, that's great. But if you can actually help that person change their life, that's the real goal, right? Them getting started is just paperwork, right? They filled out the paperwork, they paid the money, woohoo, you get a little fast start bonus, they get some products or whatever. But at the end of the day, you want to help those people win. And that's why we're partnering up with people. We're not just enrolling someone, we're starting a new team. We're starting a new business relationship. And our goal is to help them go out there and create the success they desire. And it is interesting because I think most of us start off with just wanting to make some extra money, just some supplemental income, maybe enough money to fire our boss. Because we don't really believe that we can make millions of dollars. But here, the two of us are, right? Years of doing this profession, making millions of dollars. So we know what's potential. We know what's possible and the potential that people have, but we have to understand where they're at and meet them where they're at and give them enough confidence and belief just for them to get started and then kind of take that next step, right? Maybe their first curiosity post or their live video, or they prospect their first 10 people, like taking them through that process. And then you see those people, like you said, they kind of sort themselves and they become those leaders that you can work with and coach and spend more personal time with. So Matt, you crushed it, as I knew you would. You always provide so much value. You're an amazing leader for the profession, not just for your company. I know you're the #1 income earner in your company, but you speak on stages all over the world. You put out content, free content to help network marketers and online entrepreneurs. So if you got value from Matt's conversation today, make sure you follow him, smash that heart button, show Matt some love, let him know in the comments that you appreciate him. And Matt, congrats on all your success, man. Keep it up.
Thank you, my brother. Honor being on with you. You keep it up as well. And let's do this again.
Absolutely. All right. Bye, everybody. Have a good Friday.